For lesson 7, we're going to represent measurement data with line plots. Let's start with some review. We're going to be counting by halves to 12 halves. So, 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves, 6 halves, 7 halves, 8 halves, 9 halves, 10 halves, 11 halves, 12 halves. Okay, now let's look at 2 halves. 2 halves is the same as 1. 4 halves is the same as 2. 6 halves is the same as 3. 8 halves is 4. 10 halves is 5. And 12 halves is 6. Okay, now let's count by fourths to 12 fourths. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4, 9/4, 10/4, 11/4, 12/4. So earlier we were counting by 2 on the numerators, now we're counting by 4. So 4/4 is 1, 8/4 is 2, and 12/4 is 3. So let's remember, fractions can be written as fractions and whole numbers sometimes. Okay, we are going to be using this chart, which has whole numbers and fractions. So, this chart shows the lengths of straws measured in Mr. Hahn's class. How many straws were measured? Okay, so if each of these boxes is a length, then that means that's a straw that was measured. So we can count however many boxes there are is how many straws. And there are 4 rows of 5, which means there's 20 straws. What is the smallest measurement on the chart? Okay, well, I see 2 3/4 is the smallest so far. And I don't see anything smaller than 2 3/4. And I know that that's the smallest because 2 is the smallest whole number. Okay, what is the greatest measurement on the chart? Well, the biggest whole number I see is 4, so I need to look for 4 3/4 is the greatest. Were the straws measured to the nearest inch? How do you know? Yes, they were measured to the nearest inch because it says in inches at the top. Okay, now we're going to make a line plot using the data we were given. So first we need to figure out the scale for our line plot. The first measurement on the line plot will be the smallest measurement in the chart. We said our smallest measurement is 2 3/4. So we know that we're going to start with 2 3/4. And the last measurement is actually going to be 5, so I missed it. 5 is the greatest. So our last measurement is going to be 5. Now I know that I need to count by fourths because as I can see, all of the fractions are fourths or halves, and 2/4 is the same as 1/2. So I'm going to count how many I need by counting by fourths from 2 3/4 to 5, and I'll tally how many. 2 3/4, 3, 3 1/4, 3 2/4, 3 3/4, 3 4/4, 3 Oh, that's 4. 4 and 1/4, 4 and 2/4, 4 and 3/4, 5. So it looks like I need 10 equal pieces. Okay, I already have 2 tick marks, 2 and 3/4 and 5, which means I need 8 more. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I need to label. So 2 and 3/4. Next comes 2 and 4/4, which is the same as 3 because 2 plus 1 is 3. Then I have 3 and 1/4. And next I have 3 and 2/4, which is the same as 3 1/2, but it's labeled 3 1/2 up here. So we want to use 3 1/2. 3 and 3/4, 4, 4 and 1/4, 4 1/2, 4 and 3/4, and 5. Okay, so we have our line plot, and now we have to label. So what I want to do is I'm just going to go each measurement at a time. So my first measurement is 3, so I'm going to cross it off here, and I'm going to put an X above 3. Then I have 4. Put an X at 4. 4 1/2. 2 and 3/4. 3 and 3/4. 3 and 3/4 again. 4 1/2 again. 3 and 1/4. 4. 4 and 3/4. 4 and 1/4. 5. 3. 3 1/2. 4 1/2. 4 and 3/4. 4. 3 and 1/4. 5. 4 and 1/4. Okay, so we just made our line plot. Now we're going to answer some questions using our line plot. So first of all, we should add a name. So we know that if our chart was straw lengths in inches, then that should be the label of this too. So straw lengths in inches. And I need to put inches down here. And X equals 1 straw because every X is 1 straw. Okay, how many straws were at least 2 3/4 inches tall? So as long as it's 2 3/4 inches or taller, then it would be included here. So we're actually going to count up all the straws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. How many straws were taller than 4 inches? Well, I can't include 4 because they have to be taller. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Make sure you're counting the X's. Which measurements happen most frequently? Well, most frequently was 4 inches and 4 1/2 inches because they each had 3. Least frequent only had 1, which was 2 3/4 and 3 1/2. And now you're going to practice using line plot.